Emma, welcome to the show.
Will, welcome to the show as well.
So this is the first fun, isn't it?
It is weird, yeah. Will we be vying for dominance of hosting this episode? I don't know.
We'll have to run the audio through ChatGPT and see who had the most speaking time. And,
I think this is going to be you because you are the expert on the topic we're about to talk about.
So what are we doing, Emma?
So I guess in a nutshell, last week we were having a conversation and I was asking your advice about how I get a much better practice daily, weekly, just being more mindful of manifestation and gratitude, like, because the two things for me are very interlinked. And we then had a really, well, for me, like really helpful and something like really implementable that came out of it, but a really impactful conversation. And it just, as we were talking about it, we both said, I think, like, I asked the question directly to you, and I think there are so many other people who either, well, like, know a little bit about it, does it actually work? And just because I've worked with you for so long and I know all of the impact it's had on your life and on your clients' lives, I just thought this would be a really good episode for us to do on both of our podcasts, I guess, to understand the impact of manifestation and gratitude, what it's about, which is not just woo-woo stuff, and how you can actually make it happen. And it's not like a meditating for an hour a day, or it's actually just some stuff that everybody can start to focus on.
Yeah, absolutely. And I was really keen to have the conversation as well, because that's what kind of spurred out. You asked the question, and I think I went, this would have been a really good podcast episode. So here we are, a week later, actually deciding to share it on both of our shows. So I suppose my person, I'm not a law of attraction expert, or I don't think I am, in the sense of, there's lots of people these days that you go on their Instagram and it says law of attraction expert, manifestation expert. I haven't written a book on manifestation or law of attraction specifically, but it is something that I have practiced for a long time, even prior to me personally ever first using it. So my introduction to the world of really understanding what the law of attraction was, which for me is kind of the thing that sits underneath the word manifestation, is when I first read a book called The Secret. And the book, The Secret, was born out of a movie called The Secret by a woman called Rhonda Byrne. And I think that book is kind of quite responsible for really commercializing what the law of attraction was. That's kind of my interpretation of it. And I read this book, and what was really fascinating for me was, as I read the book, I didn't go, oh my God, I've just unlocked this magical new technology that I can use, and this is going to be amazing. What it made me do at 18 years old was go, I've been doing this for like 4 or 5 years. Yeah, I've got all of the things that I wanted when I was a kid, from when I was really young, 13 years old, and wanting to buy designer clothes. I remember really, really wanting a pair of Prada America Cup trainers when I was like 12 or 13, and I would think about them and look at them, and before I knew it, I had them, and then it was little mini moto scooters and petrol scooters and all these things that I was able to kind of, what we would call, manifest into our life. And when I read that book, I went, so that now makes sense what I was doing, because I was kind of visualizing it and thinking about it. I didn't necessarily have vision boards and stuff, albeit some things I kind of did, I guess. And it made me become really aware of it, to the point where then I had this process of being able to use it. And I think of what's the definition between art and science? Art is something that's very creative, but science is something that's replicable. You can do it over and over and over again. And that's where really when we're talking about personal development, success, professional achievement, whatever we want to call it, there's an art and a science. You can't have one without the other. We want to blend both. And that was my kind of introduction to the world of law of attraction. How about you?
Yeah, it's not such a lightning moment as that, I don't think. I think over the past 17 years of having my business, I've been very aware of, I think at my level, of the energy that I've had at a time has either attracted good things or I've perpetuated harder times in my business. I think that's been I knew that there was a correlation to it. And I guess the moment in my life where I realized that focusing on the things I wanted, that they were possible, that everything was possible, was coming back from UPW in April 2017. And I was so aware that the 6 months following UPW was so different in my business. And it wasn't about particular, because UPW isn't about running your business. It's not business mastery. It's about what you're capable of achieving, unwriting stories and beliefs that you've had and creating new beliefs. And I think those 6 months following UPW were probably the first time where I really kind of started to slot together, oh my gosh, like what I think about and what I focus on and how much I believe I'm capable of doing something completely triggers really good things happening. Like I can remember being sat in our boardroom where we had an office on the other side of the building from where we are now. And I was having a conversation with somebody that was going to deliver a training event to our team. And this is probably like 3 months post UPW. And I don't know whether I'd started like posting more. I was giving out more good energy to the world. I was connecting with more people because I was in this really like high state. And I remember saying to him, gosh, like, I just feel like lots of good things are happening. This particular guy had reconnected with me because of my post and had offered to do some training. And I think like that 6 months in 2017 was the first time I properly like started to slot together. Oh my gosh, like all of the energy around you and how people perceive you, see you, what it attracts is totally, like it's under your control. I think, do you know, like that was like the biggest, because I came back on such a high and such a good energy. That energy completely just filtered through to everything I was doing. And I didn't, now I look back, like at the time, I was just buzzing that I'd been on this event because it was very different to anything I'd ever done before UPW. Like it's so like clappy, dancey, like you don't do these events normally in the UK. And I think now, look, like now, then I realized, oh my God, like I'm in such a good high state. All of this good stuff that I want to happen, thinking about, I'm just either naturally making happen, attracting it. So to be fair, like I think probably UPW was the first time I was like, oh gosh, how I feel, what I'm thinking about, what I'm emitting actually makes there is something here. There is something here to explore further.
Yeah, absolutely. And just for, I suppose, clarification, so UPW is Unleash the Power Within, which is a Tony Robbins event. His kind of signature event he's run for, I don't know, whatever it is, 30 odd years. And it was the same event that I went to in 2013 where I had what I call my lightning moment and everything changed for me. So let's kind of unpack that a little bit. So really what this, you said the word energy, right? And you also mentioned state. So what UPW definitely does is it enables people to alter their state. So Tony will talk about 3 different things. The third most important thing that you need is a strategy. What trumps a strategy is the story you tell yourself. And the thing that trumps the story you tell yourself is the state that you're in. And for me, I think of, well, your state is your way of being. And I'm a big believer, if you think differently, you act differently. If you act differently, you get different results. Now, a lot of people will say things like, well, how I feel affects how I think. I disagree. It's the opposite. How you think affects how you feel. And a feeling or an emotion that you're feeling is simply a label that you put on a feeling, right? So some people will say, I feel good. Some people will say, I feel bad, or whatever it might be. Some people say happy, sad, anxious, depressed, whatever it is, they're feelings. And we can evoke any feeling that we want in any given moment. And there's a process that we can do through intervention that can get people to pull on those feelings. And what Tony does super well is when you're at his 4-day event and you're literally there for whatever it is, 12, 13, 14, 15 hours, he's really working you into that state over and over and over again so that on demand, you can get yourself to be in what they would call a peak state, right? That's what you're looking to do. So where does that come into the likes of law of attraction and whatnot? So I believe that, and it was actually Albert Einstein that famously said, and I'm going to butcher this quote, but I'm going to paraphrase it. The most important question you can ever ask is, are you living in a beautiful universe or a hostile universe, or something to that effect? And I completely get it, because nothing in life has meaning except the meaning that we give it. So we can have situations happen that we can perceive to be a negative thing or a positive thing. And it's our ability to think, which is using our prefrontal cortex, the thinking part of the human brain, that gives us that ability, and that comes with better questions, and the better quality questions we ask ourselves, then we can gain these insights and we can gain these things. And that's really where I think that the law of attraction comes into play, because it's actually, despite what everyone thinks, law of attraction, visualization, manifestation, it's really about how we feel. And how we feel has the ability to bring these situations into our life. And I think it can get a bit woo-woo for a lot of people, because they go, right, so you're going to say, I just need to think of a particular thing and then it's going to come to me. Well, yes and no. Because you can, if you think a particular way consciously, but it's not how you truly feel, maybe because of how you're thinking unconsciously, then that's not going to happen. And that's where then the practical component of things that you're doing, actions that you're taking on a daily, weekly, monthly basis can lead to these things happening, for sure.
Yeah. And I think that's where manifestation kind of, in a lot of people's mind, gets shut out, because people go, well, if I'm just going to think about a Lamborghini and the Lamborghini is going to arrive. And that's when people kind of go, well, there's nothing to do. Like it's just I've heard so many people speak negatively about The Secret, that it's just like, well, what you saying, I'm just going to think. But I think, like, most recently, so in my business, we have a few different services, and this summer we've gone all in on one particular service, and I had set some goals, and on a particular, we've like kind of restructured our PA service and how that looks, how we sell it. And I wanted to sell that one thing. And where I'm going with this is that previously we were kind of like, the energy was being dissipated across different services, across different marketing campaigns, across different, and I honed in, like I went all in on what I really wanted to achieve in one part of my business. I don't know if anybody listening to this has multiple goals, and it can almost feel like, but I want this and I want that and I want, and there's so many things to go after that you almost kind of like don't go all in on one thing. And this summer we've gone all in on one thing, and we have mashed our sales targets on this particular thing that I went all in on. But I attribute that to one, being super aligned on the thing I wanted. So I did talk about back in May, when we set this goal, like I want to manifest X number of new clients, X number of revenue, and manifest might feel woo, but I do think it's really important. Like for me, it felt like a massive part of, I'm like so aligned in what I want, what I'm focusing on, which I guess is like the RAS, isn't it? The reticular activating system of what I'm wanting to attract. We've attracted more clients in a particular service than we've ever done before, because for me, it's been like a congruence of really, really honing in on what we wanted to achieve, putting all of our energy and efforts into the one thing. And so nothing has been outside of that. I've not been trying to do a bit of this, a bit of that. Does that make sense in terms of like The Secret?
Well, I in a word, I would call it intention, right? Because actually, what's the real intention? And for you, there was a very, very clear focus of the one thing that you were working towards. Now, because you had absolute clarity on that one thing you were working towards, then it actually made everything else become clearer, because you could see, well, is doing this thing going to, or like if I've got thing A and thing B, well, what is going to get me closer to achieving the outcome I want in the time frame that I want to achieve it? And that makes it so much easier to decide what you're going to do. I mean, literally the root origin of the word decide means to cut away. So we're cutting away things that we don't want. And then you can be super focused. And I think of it like, are you being a light bulb or are you being a laser? A light bulb, you think of the light bulbs that sit in in the middle of a room, and they're putting out light, but that might fill the room. That's about it, with all of the electricity that's going through it. And then you can take a tiny little laser that's using a tiny little watch battery, and that laser pen can go so much further and much brighter, because everything's channeled in one direction, versus a light bulb where it's kind of like coming out 360 degrees and more so, because it's coming out the top of the light bulb as well. So it's thinking about that. And I think so many people get caught up with the law of attraction, not because of whether it works or not. We talk about universal laws, and I am going to go in, albeit trying not to confuse everybody on this. of some of the science behind it. But the law of attraction is typically what we would call a secondary law. But there are laws of the universe, universal laws that we call them, and the law of attraction is aligned with those. It's a bit like with gravity. You know, if you think of gravity, you there's certain things that you can do and there's certain things that you can't do, like flying a plane, for example. You don't fly a plane because gravity doesn't exist. You fly a plane because you're using the law of gravity. And that's the key that most people don't ever really tap into, is it's understanding some of these principles that have been lost over time. You know, I think I've probably read about 2 dozen, maybe even 3 dozen books just specifically on the topic of law of attraction.
Oh, really?
Over the years, what I've done is I've gone all the way back, and what it actually starts with, which is the thing that blows most people's minds, is it starts with, as does pretty much all religion, Atlantean mysteries. So most people have heard of Atlantis, the mystery city that's sunken somewhere or whatever it is, or believed to be sunken. But pretty much everything that we understand comes back from the Atlantean mysteries. And then Atlantean mysteries developed into various different things, like you had the Celtic Druids, and then you had Hermetic wisdom, which is more around sort of the Egyptian times. And there's all of these things where they were living these principles.
Oh my gosh.
They were embodying these, they were living them, but then due to various reasons, the information didn't get passed on, or some of it did get written down. They said a lot of stuff was sort of that information was destroyed in the fire of Alexandria. Like there's so much. So I geek out on this stuff. So I've gone I've gone right into the depths of it. And if people really want to understand about that, and they really want to go to the extreme, there's an amazing book called The Secret Teachings of All the Ages. It's an 800-page book by a guy called Manly P. Hall, and he basically walks you through from the very, very beginning right through to the modern day.
Wow.
And that's I say the modern day, like a couple of 100 years ago when he died. But
and when you say walks you through their beliefs, what they were, what
he's basically like think of a history book that is, but rather than just talking about history, it's sharing the wisdom of the ages as he understood it to be. I mean, I believe it to be, and lots of other people say, like the most comprehensive way of having a really good understanding of secret wisdom, if you want to call it secret wisdom, but wisdom all compressed into one. I mean, it's still not an easy read, you know, best part of 800 pages, but it's there's some fascinating stuff, like the origin of even where playing cards have come from, which actually originate back to tarot cards. And like there's so much stuff that's interwoven with this that is pretty mind-blowing.
Yeah. Oh my gosh.
So you've got,
sorry, I was going to say, like, I've forgotten, how did we get to that point then? Because
I was talking about the universal laws. So like the Kabbalion, is one of the books that it's an amazing book, the Kabbalion. And I've read the Kabbalion, I think 2 or 3 times. And the first time I read it, I was like, oh, I kind of don't get this. It's sitting more in the advanced camp of law of attraction, right? So you've got the Kabbalion, you've got books like the Discourse on Metaphysics, obviously the Secret Teachings of All the Ages. They're like, if you kind of get law of attraction, but you really want to get it and understand it, then you can go into that depth. If you're new to this stuff and actually all you want to do is kind of have more stuff, you're not really interested in geeking out on understanding why it works and all of that stuff, then there's other resources that I could suggest, like obviously The Secret is a really commercially well-known one. The Strangest Secret, which is a 30-minute audio by Earl Nightingale that you can just go and listen to on YouTube. Bob Proctor was amazing. Bob Proctor's got a really good Audible called I think it's the Ultimate Library of Bob Proctor or something to that effect, which is on Audible. But probably one of the best books, which is actually I want to say 24. I'm sure it's a 24 sort of module process with little exercises you do. It's called The Master Key System by Charles Hannell. And that's, again, quite good from a beginner level, but to be able to work through and understand. So I suppose what I'm really trying to say is that depending on what level you want to go to, lots of people listening to this are just going to go, right, well, how can I use it to my advantage? That's kind of how I see it, is you do not need to go and learn all of these things and read all of these books to have it work for you. What you really want to understand is, what's the law of attraction? What's manifested really about? It's about how you feel.
Yeah.
And that's where I think that using the power of visualization, why visualization is a tool that people find so beneficial, is because there's lots of things that we see and we feel a particular way, right? You could see Ralph and you're going to light up and feel great, unless he's just gone and done a little turd or something on your favorite clothes or whatever it might be. You may not look at him with the same admiration, but you're gonna. And for people listening on my podcast, that's Emma's little dog. But the thinking, wait, why is he talking about her boyfriend like that? So there's those components. But then we've all experienced situations where one of our five senses creates a moment for us. So it might be something that we see and a flood of memory come back. It might be something we hear, music. We've all done it. You listen to music and instantly it catapults you back 10 years, 15 years, 20 years ago to a specific moment. Feeling, it might be something that you have an experience of feeling something and it happens. Smell, for me, it was certain smells that would instantly take me back, like cut grass or certain smells of cooking or whatever that would take me back to a moment. Taste is another one. You eat food you haven't eaten for 20 years, it takes you back to when you had it. We've all done it with the sweets that we used to have as a kid. You have those sweets and all of a sudden all those memories come back. So that's really is being able to use those things to do what you want to do. And this is where visualization is really interesting, because I think there's two elements to visualization. So let's talk about vision boards. Have you done vision boards before?
Yeah. I'd say the past 3 or 4 years, I've done one religiously each year, generally around Christmas time. But yeah, I've done one. And
achieved everything you wanted on it?
What I find really interesting is, and I think with everything, with manifesting what you want to manifest, clarity is the key to everything, isn't it? Of how you spend your time, of what you. And what becomes really clear to me is, like, when I'm creating vision boards, something that's felt like, oh, that would be cool. I don't know, maybe it's like a holiday home or something that's been a bit more like, I'm kind of, oh, well, that might be like a cool thing. So I've not been absolute certainty about. Those are the things that I've not even kind of thought twice about again. Or, it's just been a part of the exercise. But the things I've had absolute clarity on, launching the podcast, selling this, like, those things have happened. So I think that's just really interesting. At the beginning when you are, because a lot of people will think they want things or manifest things because it seems cool, or other people have got them, or other friends have got these things, or your parents think you should have X. But I think obviously when you get super clarity about what you really, really want, then those are the things you make happen.
Yeah. So I suppose where I'm going with this is that we don't need to have vision boards. If it doesn't go on a vision board, it doesn't mean it doesn't need to happen. But your word is clarity, is having intent. I've got a process called a North Star trajectory. I get people to write stuff down, and I get people to be super clear on it and not use subjective language. Because if you say, I want more money, for example, well, define more. Do you want £1 more? Do you want 100 grand more? Do you want £1 million more? Like, what? So is getting clear on that is one of the things. And then also you can visualize using the theater of your mind. So Maxwell Maltz wrote a book called Psychocybernetics, and he kind of introduced this concept of using the theater of your mind, which is visualization, playing things through. And even if you don't have it as a printed off as stickers and whatever else, then you could still achieve it, right? But this is where I think vision boards sometimes can be detrimental, because you can print everything off, but it's how you feel when you see that vision board every day. If you see that vision board and go, it's done, I've just in the process of making it happen, versus, oh my God, I've not got this thing. Oh, I wish I had that. Oh, I'm gutted I've not got it. Oh, I'll be so happy when I get it, which is presupposing you're so unhappy now, then it actually becomes detrimental, rather than looking at this thing and feeling great about it and feeling like imagining that you've already got it and playing with it. Because we all do it, right? The past doesn't exist. The present doesn't exist. Sorry, the past doesn't exist. The future doesn't exist. All that exists is the present. So all of us can think back to a memory 10 years ago, 15 years ago, 20 years ago that was a great memory. And we can also all think of something that we want to happen in the future in 10 years, 5, 15 years, 20 years. What's the difference?
Yeah.
in both instances, we're using our mind to bring up these emotions of how we want to feel. And that's really where we can get sort of work the muscle of having it work for us. So I think that's something that's super key. I suppose something that's worth touching on. So in terms of the theatre of your mind, what do I mean by that? Well, if I was to say to anyone listening to this right now, I want you to imagine right now that you had to describe exactly what you did this morning from the moment you woke up. So the moment your eyes opened, what did you do? You know, some people, I leant over and turned off the alarm. I pulled back the curtain. I walked into the bathroom, walked out the bathroom, went and got ready, drove to the gym, got on the cross trainer or whatever it was, right? What are the things that they did? They can describe it because they can go back through and they can talk about those things. But then when it comes to visualization, we have two different types of visualization we can do. We can do a visualization, what we call an associated state or a disassociated state. So an associated state would be, if you can imagine right now, sitting in the cinema, right? So you're in the cinema, you're watching the big screen, but you are looking, your experience in the cinema through your own eyes. So you're sat there. If I look down, I can see my big pot of popcorn. If I look up, I can see the screen in front of me. If I look to the left, I can see who's sat next to me. If I look to the right, I can see, because I'm looking through my eyes, if I'm making sense. That's what we call an associated state. A disassociated state in terms of a visualization is when I would be in the cinema, but I would be looking at myself sat in the cinema. Right. So if I was behind me, I'd be looking at the back of my head. If I was in front of me, I'd be looking at my face and my body holding the popcorn. The most powerful visualizations you can do are in an associated state. So one of the visualizations that I did was that I really wanted to have, so two things. The home that we're in, I absolutely love, but I want to put a third floor on it. And for a period of time, Gemma and I, we were struggling to conceive. And at the time of recording this, we're like a couple of weeks out from having our first baby. But what I did was I visualized for months on end, pulling up on that drive, getting out the car, the door opening, the kids come running out, seeing the third floor built on it. But I did over and over and over again, because I am adamant, I'm absolutely convinced that in the not too distant future, literally a couple of years' time, that moment is going to happen. And most of us have had experiences like that, albeit we haven't done them consciously. You know, some people call it deja vu. You have these experiences, the amount of times a year I have these moments, I'm like, I've been here, I've experienced this, and I have tears of gratitude and inspiration, because I'm like, I have lived this moment in my mind so many times.
Oh my God.
To now know that it's happening, and that for me is like is an indication that I'm on the right way, on the right path.
Yeah. And just in that example, Will, and you said like you visualized it. Is it like something you would kind of, you know, I don't know, you drive in the car and you like flick to that, or is it more intentional? Like when you wake up, it's part of your routine. How is that for you?
Yeah, it's a good question. In that moment, more often than not, what I was actually doing was like laying in bed, closing my eyes and experiencing it. That was, and sometimes it was like 30 seconds, you know, a minute. It wasn't like I'm doing an hour-long practice of it, but there are dozens of little things like that I'll do throughout the year. I'll come up with, I call them scenes. You know, what's the scene I want to experience of being able to do things, speaking at certain events, and imagine myself stood there looking out at everyone on the stage, being able to do those things. So yeah, there's a couple of examples there.
And just when you were talking about how you approach the things that you want to manifest, like if it's in a state of lack or if it's in a state of this is absolutely done, just touching on something practical, because I know that you every day write down your gratitude from a perspective of you're grateful for the things that haven't happened, but as if they have happened. Is that right? Like, so I'm grateful that I have loving children and a third floor on the house, and like you write them as if they're already done.
Yeah, I do. However, what I will say is that so I flip between this. So yes, the short answer is yes. I write down things I'm grateful for most days. So, this little black book, you won't be able to read my hieroglyphics. So for people who are watching this, is that I'll write down 10 things I'm grateful for. What I typically do, so my journaling practice, if you want to call it that, I write what time I wake up, how I feel when I wake up, and a reason why I think it might be the case. So if I've had a late night and I'm feeling tired, it's because of that. If I've eaten too much sugar the night before and I'm feeling groggy, or whatever it might be, because I'm just trying to make myself aware of how I start my day. I'm a big believer, if you win your morning, you win the day. So I'm trying to do things that put me in the best position. Then I'll write down 10 things I'm grateful for. And typically, I use a process called PEBET, which is like a rubbish acronym because it doesn't stand for anything, but it stands for stuff, but it doesn't spell anything, which is people, experiences, belongings, expectations, and privileges. What I used to do is I would write out gratitude every day, and I wouldn't be specific. And then so I'm grateful for having time. I'm grateful for people. I'm grateful. I was just really broad. Or what was happening was I was just saying the same stuff all the time. I'm grateful for my car. I'm grateful for my partner. I'm grateful for my house. I'm grateful, whatever. And over time, I thought, actually, this isn't really working for me. It feels like a pointless exercise, which is what a lot of people say to me when it comes to writing gratitude. So what I did was I said, right, I'm going to write 2 people I'm grateful for from the previous 24 hours. I'm going to write 2 experiences I had from the previous 24 hours. I'm going to write 2 belongings that I think of from the previous 24 hours, 2 experiences. People, experiences, belongings, expectations, and privileges. So for example, people, I might go back to yesterday, and what I'll often do is I'll maybe even look through my calendar, look at my diary and go, right, who am I grateful for? I'm grateful yesterday for Colin for interviewing me on his podcast, for example. I'm grateful for so I got introduced to someone yesterday as a referral. So I'm like, right, well, I'm grateful for George for introducing me to someone. Then experiences. Well, what experiences did I have yesterday? Well, yesterday morning, I went to the sauna and the steam room. Well, I was grateful that I got to go and just have that a sauna and the steam room in the morning. My belongings. Sometimes I'll think of some more extravagant stuff. Sometimes I'll think of stuff that I use every day. Like I'm grateful for my iPad because I use that with clients. Or I'm grateful today. I'll be grateful for my microphone to be able to use. So I'll think of the smaller things as well as the bigger things. Experiences, something that an expectation. What did I expect to happen? Well, I expected yesterday to have Wi-Fi at the office. And then a privilege of mine yesterday was that I have meal prep, right? So that I'm aware that's a privilege. There's lots of people that don't have that. Lots of people in the world that don't even have food, right? So I'll go into these things. And what I'll often do as well is I won't always think about the things that have gone well or as expected. I'll think of the things that haven't gone as expected. And like the other day, I literally, the guy's been out there fixing it now. I scuffed an alloy. Well, I could have beat myself up that I scuffed an alloy, but actually I'm grateful for this time. It's taken me 9 months to do it. The last car I bought, I did it the day I bought the thing. Right. So I'm great. Literally, I was fuming.
That is annoying. Yeah, that is very annoying.
I to the point where I took it to the shop. He goes, "God, this must be brand new." I went, "Yeah, literally yesterday I picked it up." So it's it was. So yeah, I'm grateful that I've gone 9 months. Whatever, 9 months longer than I did last time. So I'll think of the things that didn't go to plan, and I'll look for reasons to genuinely be grateful for them. And often that comes from the perspective of seeing that it could have been a lot worse. There's this thing because so many of us get caught up in situations where things haven't gone the way that we want them to. And this is maybe worth talking about positive and negative thinking. So lots of people live in the delusion that they want to be positive all the time. And I think of positive and negative thinking like a wrecking ball. You imagine like a wrecking ball that swings on a pendulum. People, the more they strive for a one-sided ideal for everything to be positive and only be good, the more they become deluded. So therefore, the more that wrecking ball swings back the other way. So what the optimum way of being is balanced and having a balanced perspective, which for me is operating from a state of gratitude. Gratitude isn't a feeling, it's a frequency. And that's when you've got the perfect blend of positive and negative.
And just to touch on the word frequency.
Yeah.
What do you believe that is? That like the energy you're emitting to the people around you? What do you believe that to be?
Energy in general, 100%.
Yeah.
So the two. So it was oh my God, what's it called? Power versus Force. Dr. David Hawkins. So Dr. David Hawkins created a scale in a book called The Map of Consciousness. And the scale is called The Map of Consciousness, which is a logarithmic scale that measures emotion. And the two lowest forms of energy are guilt and shame.
Right.
And I think they measure at 20. I think shame is 20 and guilt is 30 from memory. And it goes all the way up to basically enlightenment. I'm pretty sure enlightenment is the highest, which is the highest score, which I think is 999 or 1,000. I can't remember off the top of my head. And it's all about the view of life. And when we're in guilt or shame, we are at an extreme end of the spectrum, right? We're seeing that it's all good. It's all bad. It's all this, it's all that. Whereas people then think the polar opposite of that is what enlightenment's can be. Well, it's all good, but it isn't. The view of life when you're enlightened is it just is. There is no good. There is no bad. It just is. And this is where people get caught up when they have situations that happen, quote unquote, to them. Nothing in life happens to you. It's happening for you. Everything is not in the way. It's on the way. And when we can take these perspectives on life, and look, I'm human, I'm the same as everybody else. I have days where I'm like, oh, really? But I have to bring myself back to that, is understanding we've all been there. We've all had situations we look back in life where what we perceive to be the worst thing that ever happened to us, with time, as most people would say, they realize it's the best thing that's happened to them. But I disagree. It's never, ever, ever about time. It's about perspective. It's about perspective. But what happens is, because most people don't have the questions or the strategic questions to ask themselves to gain the perspective, it takes them the time to realize it. So actually, if you can have something that's really, quote unquote, negative that's happening to you, with the right intervention, with the right questions, we can change that in a moment. We don't have to wait 2 years, 3 years, 5 years, 10 years, but most people never ask themselves those questions or proactively seek out those questions to ask themselves to get the perspective in the moment.
Oh my God, sorry, that is dropped very heavily with me now, that most people actually just wait to reflect, hindsight, go, oh, remember that? Yeah, it was actually fine after. Yeah, oh my God. I think if one person listening to that actually goes, I've got the power now, if they're in a difficult situation, to start to choose to think and perceive it differently. My gosh.
And this is where, I mean, I'm probably going to lose some people with what I'm about to say, Emma, because I'm about to go a little bit deeper than maybe we were planning to. But where this gets fascinating was a few years back ago, years ago, I don't know, 7, 8 years ago, I just had this really weird feeling as I was out running one day. I was like, because most people, when they go running, they're thinking about normal things. Clearly not me, because I'm thinking about, I wonder what light is. Right. And I just had this, I had this thing of, well, what if light is knowledge? And what if the sun is actually passing all of this knowledge, and it's a transmitter of knowledge, consciousness, whatever you want to call it.
Right.
And we're the receiver. Right. And I was thinking of like radio. So you have a radio transmitter, radio receiver. You've got to tune into the right frequency. If you don't tune in, and I'll hasten to add that the birthplace of radio is Chelmsford, where I am actually.
Is it really?
Born and bred, yes. So there's a little fun fact that no one will care about listening to this. But yeah, I was thinking about frequency. I was like, well, you can have a radio transmitter and a radio receiver. If they're on the wrong frequency, you're not going to hear each other, right? It's the same with people. Like, there's lots of unconscious language that we use, like, they're on my vibe. Well, what are we actually saying? They're on my vibration. That's what we're actually saying. If we take that word, they're on my vibration. We get each other. We're in sync with each other. Then I was thinking, well, what about this thing? If we're transmitters and we're receivers, and actually all of the information is always there. Some people call it the ether or whatever. And then we have the ability to download this information and get it. We have these amazing insights. Well, was that, or were you just vibrating at the level that made you kind of be able to download it at the time? Then a couple of years later, a friend of mine told me about a book called The Secret of Light that was written about 150 years ago. Long story short, this is what this guy said, and Nicholas Tesla was like, this guy's a guy called Walter Russell, and he was saying that Nicholas Tesla was saying, like, this is some of the most important information ever to be found. Lock it away. People aren't going to understand it for hundreds of years yet. And where does that fold into law of attraction? Where does that fold into gratitude? Well, how it folds into gratitude is that we use lots of unconscious language that revolves around light. If someone is really smart, we call them
bright.
Okay. If someone isn't smart, we would call them dim.
Yeah.
If you are feeling really great, you might say, I'm feeling light. You know, if I feel like I've got the world on my shoulders, I'm feeling I've got this weight on me right now. So we use these
oh my God,
kind of unconscious language. If someone's really clever, we call them a star. Right. So there's all of these things that we do. I'm like, is it a coincidence? I don't know. Maybe it is. But there was all of these things. And then what happened was I was thinking about positive and negative. And actually, most people have seen the yin yang sign before, where it's like the swirl, it's like half white, half black. It's got the white dot, and which is like, see the good in the bad and the bad in the good. And then you're at balance. Right. And then I realized, oh my God, when you have a proton and it's what I'm saying, we're going to lose some people here. When you have a proton, you have an electron, and they're waves, and they cross over perfectly. They birth light. They create a quantum light wave.
Okay.
So when we get the positive and the negative, we get two polar opposites to meet in the middle. They birth this light, and that's what gratitude is. True gratitude is when you're feeling light, you're at your best. When people are doing great work, they're putting great work out into the world, we call them light workers. Yeah. So there's all of these things that were coming together that revolve around gratitude. It's a very, very long-winded way of me saying gratitude has a huge impact on how we show up on a daily basis, what we're able to achieve, what we're able to do, and operating from that place of gratitude. Because when we're in a place of gratitude, it's not good, it's not bad, we're not making something right, we're not making it wrong. We can be really present, we can be really poised, and we're clearing the way for better stuff to come to us. And that's where one of the other books that's more commercially known in recent years, I believe you've read it, is a book called Manifest by Roxy Nafusi. Yeah. One of the chapters that she talks about, which is I think it's even got different color pages, is talking about shame, which is so true. You know, by clearing your shame, you can
lift the vibrations and the energy.
Vibration. Perfect example of that is like having a hot air balloon. The old-fashioned hot air balloons, they used to be held down by sand bags. It was never about the hot air balloon, the amount of air that was in the hot air balloon. That was always in there. What was holding it down was the weight. The moment you cut away the weight, it's going to lift.
What a brilliant analogy.
The more we cut away the weight that's holding us down in the form of negative beliefs, past beliefs, whatever that might be, the higher we're going to rise. And that's where I believe that peak performance is equal to your potential minus interference. So all of us are naturally designed to operate at peak performance because that's our natural potential, but it's the interference that gets in the way in the forms of ineffective belief systems, ineffective strategies, sometimes these things, these components, but state is a huge part of that. So the more things you can do on a daily basis to feel like you're in a great state, when things don't go the way you want them to, the faster you can shift your perspective on them to see how it's serving you, the better you're gonna operate. And one of the best ways of doing that is having what I call a clear North Star. So my North Star is having a mission in life that's the equivalent of trying to empty the sea with a spoon, but that's based on teleology, right? So we have a telos, the ancient Stoics used the telos, and it goes right back to history. A telos is basically the thing that gives your life meaning, and these things, if we align with that, then you just live a better life. You're not operating from cause and effect anymore. You're operating from this place of being able to live a life that's congruent with what you want. And I mean, it folds into I don't want to feel like I'm just sort of rabbiting off different books for people to read.
You're definitely not rabbiting off. Gold.
There's an amazing book called The Courage to be Disliked, which is a really interesting book because it's a philosopher and a student, but it's basically a dialogue throughout the whole book of the philosopher teaching what's known as Adlerian psychology. So most people think of the famous psychologists being Sigmund Freud and Carl Jung, but there was a third famous psychologist at the time called Alfred Adler, who created Adlerian psychology, which I believe is actually better. I mean, better is subjective, but it's more true because it's focused on teleology and having a telos and living in line with that, which is all about nothing in life has meaning except the meaning that you give it. And if you align it with your telos, then you'll be able to live much more congruently and ultimately a lot more fulfilled.
And the telos is effectively the North Star, the thing. One of the best pieces, and you've given me a lot of great advice, Will, since we've known each other, but I think one of the most one of the things you said to me that's kind of shifted me the most is hold the vision, not the circumstance. And it's ultimately what you're saying here, in that in those times where it might feel negative, you might be struggling to shift your perspective, your state, how you're thinking, to, as long as you've got clarity again on your North Star, on your vision, whatever that might be, work, life, personal, fitness. When you get super focused back on that, it kind of peels away. Okay, well, this is happening right now, but that's where we're going. And that has been incredibly helpful to me.
Well, I'm pleased, and look, full credit. That's not my saying. It's a woman called Mary Morrissey, and Mary's amazing, absolutely amazing. You know, she was in an era of people. She was in a little mini mastermind group that I vaguely remember that some of the people that are in it. When she was joining her, learning her craft, you know, as a newbie coach wanting to do stuff. But there was like, I think half a dozen of them, 5 of them maybe. But it was like her, Les Brown, Bob Proctor, Wayne Dyer,
you know,
just as like 5 of them together being mentored by this one person whose name I can't remember. But yeah, no, Mary's absolutely amazing. But yeah, that's her quote. And it's so true. You know, hold the vision, not the circumstance. Where are we going? What are we doing? Understand nothing is in the way, it's on the way. And ultimately, the things that happen in life, and we can all reflect on it in the past, you know, using hindsight, as you said, but it's like, well, how long do you want to live there before you realize, actually, no, this is happening for you, not to you. You know, this is how could this be serving me to be able to achieve what it is that I want faster? Because the moment that we can see that and truly believe it, then you don't want to change it. Because the reality in life, if you don't like something, change it. If you can't change it, change the way you think about it. And that's what we have the ability to do in these situations. And it can feel tough and it can feel hard. But the sooner we gain perspective, the better. And a true indication of whether you truly feel grateful about something is you don't want to change it. Yeah, if you can look back in 3 years, 5 years, 10 years, or whatever it is, or even a month ago, and go, if I had the option, which none of us do, but if I had the option of going back and changing what happened, would I change it? And the answer's no. You know, you're truly in a place of gratitude. Whereas a lot of people go, I wish I could go and change that. Well, you've not seen how it's serving your North Star, serving your telos, serving you right now. As a result of doing this. So look, I think that vision boards are helpful. Using visualization absolutely is helpful. And also as well, it's understanding, I don't even know if I've told you this, Emma, but it's understanding that things will happen in the time frame that they're kind of meant for, not necessarily what you want. So I've got this vision board that I did in 2013, and all this stuff on it. And I found it last Christmas, and tears come out because the stuff on this vision board that I made in 2013 that I wanted that year, like I wanted it to be my year, and it was some quite ambitious stuff. Almost all of it I have now, without even like, the kitchen that I wanted. I haven't looked at this photo for over 12 years. It's literally the kitchen we're in now. It's unreal. And next time I see you, I'll show you, and you'll be
please.
It's unbelievable, the similarities. Like even the mirror, I didn't even realize at the time. This blew my mind. I just wanted a bathroom, right? So I found this thing, cut it out of the bathroom magazine, stuck it on. The mirror in that bathroom has these certain lights around them. The house I live in now has the same mirror with the same lights. Like one of those like infinity light things. You turn it on and it looks like there's loads and loads of lights going on inside it. And I didn't buy that mirror. That was in the house when I moved in. So yeah, there's some.
That just on that, can I just touch on, because I do think, I mean, I'm sure there's a lot of business owners listening to both of our podcasts. And I think one of the plights of a lot of us is that thought of, I should be further along by now. Why am I not at this particular place not by now? I was meant to get to 7 figures, 8 figures by, whatever that might be. And I just feel like this story that you've just told, because so you designed this in 2013. I'm assuming these things that were on there kind of, we're now 12 years later, they've happened over the course of, they've happened over the past 12 years at different places. And I just think, I don't know, just personally, what did you take from that? Because you just said like everything, you're on the right path, the time frame's happening. And do you know what I mean? Like, I'm sure you coach so many business owners who they come to you because they're disappointed because they've not reached the perception of where they should be by now. And yet you've achieved those things just over a longer time span than the 1 year in 2013.
Yeah.
I feel like
it's a really good point, because you know, like we work together, I build out goals, yes, we have 10-year, 5-year, 3-year, 1 year, 90 day. What's the difference? If I could kind of deconstruct what I did then to what I do now, was that, and this is what I was saying about the vision board sometimes not working, is that I wanted it so desperately.
In 2013.
Yeah, I wanted it so desperately, but equally also didn't really believe that it was going to happen. If I was really honest with myself. I was really honest with myself. So I didn't really believe. Whereas there's other things, and I'm just like, it's done and let go. People talk about sort of detach from the outcome and stuff like that. Like there's a lot to be said for that. And there's, again, a very, very, very good book by Dr. David Hawkins called Letting Go. I think there's a lot to be said for that. And it is this dance between taking action. My company used to literally be called Make It Happen. I was all for action, 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 do it. There's not a coaching call I have with a single client that doesn't leave with actions that they're going to go away and do. Right? So I know there's actions that have to happen, but I do think that it has to be congruent actions. And if I'm honest with myself, back then there was an element of that I just didn't believe it. And I think that no matter how big the goal may be, if you genuinely believe it, and you can almost deludedly convince yourself that it's going to happen, but detach from the time frame that it happens, then I think it's more than likely, if you're taking congruent action and it's within the realms of human possibility, it's within the laws of the universe that it could actually happen. If I just turn around and said, I want to be able to fly, as in just in my body, whatever else, that's just not humanly possible. But yeah, that's
so when you say detach from when it's going to happen, obviously, like I work with you and we plan in 10-year, 5-year, 3-year, 1 year goals, when it's about working towards, but not that it happening dead on the date of year one is everything. Do you mean like detach from it in that way?
I guess so. Yeah, sort of. The time frames can be super helpful, and this is what I mean. I do my best. I do my best to not speak in absolutes, because if you speak in absolutes, there's always opportunities for there to be like a situation where it doesn't work. But Parkinson's law states that work expands until the time at which you give it. But then I would also state that the opposite's true as well. Because if I said, all right, I want to have something extreme that's a particular absolute dream plane that I would love to have, which I appreciate is a very luxurious thing. If I said, right, I want to have that tomorrow, I know I'm kidding myself. Do you know what I mean? But I know I don't believe it. But then there'll be somebody else that will go, well, how do you know? Like so you might win the lottery and all, so it's taking things in the realm of possibility. But I think, look, the thing for me with the law of attraction is how do you make it practical? And for me, it is understanding it's about how you feel on a daily basis. If I think back to that time a couple of years ago when I moved into this particular house, I was probably feeling the best I've ever felt for a variety of reasons. Lots of things were going how I want them to. I was looking after myself. I was feeling great. at what you could call a chance opportunity. I don't believe in coincidences, only synchronicities of something that come up. But yeah, it's these things can these things can happen. But practically, what can people do? Get clear on their goals, like know what they really want and genuinely believe that they want them. Create a practice of creating gratitude on a daily basis. I'm a huge advocate for meditation. So doing a daily practice, even if it's 10 minutes a day, I personally like to use guided meditations, and I'll pick different meditations based on what I feel that I need. And the one thing that we've not actually touched on, but I do think is important, is that internal dialogue is like a track that runs. And if you've got an internal dialogue, you can have an internal dialogue that's empowering or disempowering. And I think of it a bit like a jukebox, you know, the old fashioned jukebox, you used to go to a bar or a pub or whatever, and they'd have the certain CDs. If you don't like that, you could press the button and it would pull that CD out and put another one in. We have the ability to do the same with our mind. And there's certain affirmations that I will say on a daily basis that are more likely to get me to be able to live the life I want and to be how I want to be on a daily basis. So I essentially rewrite what might be that CD. You know, when you used to, back in the day, you'd buy a CD, you could burn music onto it, but then some of those CDs, they could never be rewritten. But then you'd buy the rewritable CDs that you burn a song onto it. You play it for 2 weeks, and then you'd go and burn another song and basically write over it. Our minds, we have the ability to do that. So I think it's really important what we're saying to ourselves, even if we're not saying externally, but saying internally to ourselves, is super important as well.
And meditation, just some people, I know it's like I think people are either immediately sounds good or wow, that I could never do that. Like, it doesn't have to be, we're talking about a 5 minutes, a 10 minutes. Like, I know you said to me before you would choose a meditation session over going to the gym. Like, that's the impact it has on your mind, body, how you feel, reset. It's not a kind of sat there for half an hour, is it, with candles, and it can just be taking a moment to be present, shutting down phone and everything, and just kind of being with yourself.
Yeah, exactly that. You know, I'm human. I'm the same as everybody else. I have days that some days are better than others. I have stuff coming at me, the messages, the emails, things that I don't necessarily want. And for me, it's not so much what happens, it's how I handle it. So it's the difference between responding and reacting. So for me, a reaction is something that is an impulse. So responses, I give some thought and direction to. And the only way I can kind of liken it is, if I wake up in the morning and let's say I'm a 7 out of 10 stressed and something happens, it might take me to a 10 out of 10 stressed or a 9 out of 10 stressed. Whereas if I wake up in the morning, I'm a 7 out of 10 stressed for whatever reason, late night, this, that, the other, and then I'm conscious in my morning to meditate, reset my mind, get myself into a good state, and that takes me down to a 3 out of 10. That same thing can happen that day, but what took me from a 7 out of 10 to a 10 out of 10, now starting at a 7, going down to a 3, I'm now only at a 6 out of 10. So even though the thing, whatever it is that's happened, so I'm learning to be calmer, be more content. And yeah, look, like I say, I'm human. I still have stuff that rattles me from time to time, but I just don't allow it to happen more often than not, and look to jump in and deal with it sooner rather than later, because it is our conscious thinking that has the ability to change our feeling if we do it properly. And what I mean by that is appropriate questions, asking the right questions, and secondly is doing the right volume of it. It's a bit like if you were baking a cake and you had all the right ingredients, all the right amounts and quantities, you put them all in the right order and sequence, but you only put it in the oven on 100 degrees for 20 minutes, but it needed to go in the oven for 200 degrees for 40 minutes, you're not going to get the outcome you want. So sometimes we have to really drill into what the benefits are, like what the upsides are of the things that we're perceiving to be negative. And I liken that to a bit like balance scales. So if you think of balance scales, I call it, the process called cultivating an attitude of gratitude, which is if you've got something that's really not the way you want it to be, if you have the old fashioned balance scales where you put, I don't know, the flour on it and the weight, if you imagine a brick on one side and a grain of sand on the other, that grain of sand is obviously a lot lighter than the brick. But if I keep adding lots and lots and lots and lots and lots of grains of sand, eventually it's going to get to being equal and both be balanced. And the way that we do that is by, when you're looking for the benefits, we find out what the initial benefit is, what we call the primary benefit. Then we look for what we call the secondary benefit, which is the benefit of that benefit. And then we find the tertiary benefit, which is the benefit of the secondary benefit. And I think of that as like the grain of sand, the little stone, and then the rock. Well,
right.
Obviously, if I've got the sand, if I've got the grain of sand, the stone, and the rock, I'm going to get that brick to be balanced a lot faster than only having grains of sand, which are the primary benefits. So we dig deeper, basically, to get people into balance faster, which again gets them back to how they feel they want to feel. Because to kind of underline this, in my opinion, is that ultimately anything that we ever want to achieve in life and have is to feel a particular way. Yeah, whether it's the material things in life is because you want to feel a particular way, or you want to have an experience that enables you to feel a particular way. Well, if we can cultivate that feeling on a daily, weekly basis whilst in pursuit of that thing, then it's a double benefit. It's kind of how I see it. So yeah.
And one of the key things for me as well, like morning practice is talked about a lot, and you're totally right. Like how you set the morning, I think, just sets the tone for the whole day. One thing that's really important for me, and I don't know whether other people feel like this, but you can start your morning really good. You go into the day, you get all this stuff coming at you. I find that I need to reset like early afternoon. Like actually, I set an alarm. On that alarm, it says like alive, kind, and grateful, and I will take 5 minutes, 10 minutes if I can, or maybe it's like a walk with Ralph and listen to something, but like an interrupt in the middle of the day, because I can definitely, my mind can go in all directions, as I'm sure many people, and I do find that, like resetting the second half of the day is really important for me. Otherwise it can kind of go off tangent.
I can't believe we've gone an hour without mentioning Brendan Bouchard. We've gone an hour without mentioning Brendan Bouchard. But the reason I bring it up, so he has a thing, and you'll remember the same better than me, but it's something like reset and set intention or something. Do you know the thing I'm talking about?
Yeah. Well, he talks about resetting intention, like bring the joy. Yeah. He talks about resetting intention all the time.
Yeah, and he's got his little saying, whatever it is, but it's basically two things, which is where you take the breather. I'm gonna have to find out what it's going to be called now, because it's going to bug me otherwise. But it's like the example that always sticks in my head is like you've been had a crazy busy day. You're still on the phone on the way back from work. You're driving in the car. You're crazy busy. But actually take that 30 seconds or 60 seconds of breathing or whatever it is you want to do before you walk in the door. And what's the intention you want to feel when you walk in the door to the person? Do you want to walk in on the phone, chuck your things down, go straight upstairs, and they're like, all right, hello, yeah, good to see you? Or is it my intention is I want them to make them feel loved and that I've missed them the moment I walk in the door? Right, well, what energy am I going to bring to the front door? What am I going to open? What I'm going to say? What's the thing I'm going to do? Am I going to be on the phone, give them a little wave, or am I going to go walk up to them, tell them I love them, give them a kiss, whatever it is? And I think even that during your day, those micro moments, like you said, going in between meetings is super, super.
Oh my God, you're totally right. He talks about that he basically has an alarm every 55 minutes. And, like it's now 1:45. He would talk about, so if between 1 and 2, I'm actually going to blast through my emails, he would set his alarm to go, do you know what? The next hour, is it something I want to do? No, I don't really, but I'm going to set my intention for the next hour. I'm going to put my favorite music on. I'm going to get a nice coffee. Like it's possible, no matter what the task is, to make the hour or the thing as enjoyable and appealing as possible. Do you know, like you're totally right. Whether it's coming home, whether it's having a meeting that's going to be difficult, whether it's doing his email, he prior to that hour goes, right, actually, how do I want this to be? What's the intention? And really, like, he's very discerning about the energy he goes into that particular thing with. Yeah, so I set my alarm in the middle of the day. He apparently sets it every 55 minutes and has like a 5-minute reset.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, I've just Googled it because I wanted to find out what it was. Release tension, set intention. That's his thing.
No,
So
yeah,
release the
okay.
tension, like with the breath work, whatever, and then set the intention. Those things. And I think it's such a simple but effective technique.
Yeah.
Release tension, set intention. And I think he even says something like that to himself.
He's got a meditation on YouTube, which is him basically repeating the word release over and over for like 30 minutes. Yeah. Like, it has got like 2 million views on YouTube, but yeah.
So, I mean, this whole podcast for obviously our respective shows, going out on mine, going out on yours, Emma, was born from you and I having a brief conversation and saying about, actually, why don't we have this conversation as a podcast and other people can tune into it and not just have a chat about it. Is there anything else that you think we should cover that people listening to this might want to know from a practical perspective that we could share a bit of wisdom around that you can think of? Because I've got some questions I want to ask you.
No, I mean, when we started this conversation, I was just keen that I really wanted practical things for people to be able to implement from this. And I think our show notes are going to be very long, Will, with the number of books that you've recommended on. It's going to be like 20 links to Amazon. Yeah, no, I think like in terms of if somebody listens to this and goes, right, tomorrow morning, I'm either going to give gratitude on 10 things. I'm going to be more intentional about the day. I think we've got a really good list of practical stuff. That's the key thing, that I wanted people to have something that they could start to use, that they're aware that I want to change my energy. I want to be more intentional and focused. I guess one thing maybe, and maybe it's not a quick one, maybe it's not, but in terms of like clarity and goal setting and North Star, because I do think a lot of business owners go through life just kind of, well, I want to like $1 million. I feel like $1 million turnover is a big one for a lot of, like, they have a lot of goals that are just kind of everybody's goals. I want to get to this point. I guess that clarity piece is really important. Have you got any like practical takeaways in terms of somebody who goes, do you know what, actually, I don't really know what my North Star is? Is there something they could take from that?
Yeah, I mean, a really interesting question that people don't ask themselves enough is, go, I really want this, and then just go, okay, why? Yeah, why do you want that? Good question. I don't actually know why I want that. I think it's because I'm going to do this. I think so. Asking why and reflecting. Yeah. That's one of the things. There's, look, I'm mindful of not wanting this to come across as like we've done this just to plug the book, but ultimately I wrote the book to help people give one of the things that was really important for me when I wrote my book was I wanted to have a book that people could read from cover to cover, have all of the questions, have a free resource they could go to if they want the extra 80-page workbook that comes with it, and create transformation. I didn't want it to just be information, so there's a lot of stuff there, but yeah, people are wise to get clear on what it is that they really want, and understand their values and understand what they really want. Because you're right, a lot of people say, I want X turnover, but they don't really want the turnover. What they really want is the profit, and for example, or they really want the lifestyle or whatever. And getting clear on that can actually create scenarios whereby you go, well, actually, if what are we optimizing for? And I've mentioned this before. A great friend of mine is a guy called Chris Branch, and he's an osteopath, and I remember saying to him many years ago when I was sort of trying to get better, he was saying that when I had something wrong with me, he was saying, well, what are you optimizing for, Will? And I was like, that is one of the best questions that you could ever ask, because a marathon runner is going to optimize very differently. If you're optimizing, to run a marathon, your training is going to be very different to if you're optimizing to run a 100-meter sprint. Yeah. And I don't think enough people ask themselves the question, what am I actually optimizing for? Am I optimizing for lifestyle? Am I optimizing for profit? Like, what's whatever, it could be lots of different things. Some people are optimizing because they want to have a massive big exit and have a big liquidity event. Great. Like, I'm not the person to decide whether someone should or shouldn't have certain goals, but just being clear on what it is that you do really want. And some people, if they go, well, I don't know what I want, one of the best questions they can ask themselves is, well, what do you absolutely not want? Because sometimes people find it easier to know what they don't want. And if we go know what we don't want, we go, well, what's the polar opposite of that then? You know, and let's start searching from that place, and that can be helpful for people. So yeah, I think that's good.
Yeah, that's really helpful. I mean, for me, like the seven figure thing, I'll be honest, I had that for the longest time. And then when we reached seven figures, I realized it was actually more about a kind of thing to myself to prove that I could do it. It wasn't about the money. Like as we've worked together, I've realized I'm not that money motivated. It's more about what, like helping people get out of their grind in their business. And so when I reached that seven figures, it was very much like, oh, what that actually wasn't. I've done it, but it isn't my North Star. Do you know what I mean? Like, I think people can get mixed up in figures and turnover. And then when we reached it, however many years ago, I just realized that actually isn't the thing. That isn't the thing at all. And I think the more you get clarity on, which I've done with you, the more helpful it is as to what actually makes you happy.
So what we've done in this episode, I'm really keen to, obviously I've shared a few things that hopefully people find helpful, but I know for you personally, you're now, I'm not even going to say embarking on it because you're doing more than embarking on it. But you are getting sort of more into the world of manifestation, law of attraction, wanting to find out more about it is what prompted this conversation.
Yeah.
So what are some of the things that are kind of, that a lot of people listening to this might think that you found maybe not to be true, or that have confused you in relation to using it to actually get outcomes that you want?
When you say found not to be true, do you mean like preconceptions I had? Sorry, or
yeah, maybe it's preconceptions, or maybe it's things that you're doing that you're realizing actually that doesn't work. Because yeah, some people listening to this episode, if they've even got in this far, are going to go, I've never heard of this thing. I thought it was this load of rubbish. Yeah, all right, I'm just going to sit there and click my fingers and stuff's going to happen. Or I know you and I joke about high heels and manifest. We're just going to do it and it's going to happen. But yeah, what are some things that maybe changed your opinion, or maybe not changed your opinion, that you've believed and still believe?
Okay, a couple of things are clarity. Sorry, I've mentioned the word so much on this episode, but I've realized how important that is, because you've said it in this episode where you can kind of put things down on a vision board and you're like, it would be nice, but you don't really believe it. And I've done that so many times where I've kind of dreamt up goals because they sound or feel sexy. But the more I've got clarity via journaling, working with you, Will, and this is not just a plug for Will, you are brilliant, but just like the journey that I've been on of getting clarity on what makes me happy and what makes me tick. Like the example I gave at the beginning about this kind of really going all in and mastering one part of the business, that keeps being the trigger to things happening, whether it's been my fitness and training for a marathon. Again, it's laser focus on one thing. I think that has definitely opened up. I see it with my partner, Joe, like he is massively into triathlon and Ironman. And I was talking about it last night at dinner. He gets obsessed about one thing and achieves it. Whereas I've been in the past kind of excited by lots of, I guess that entrepreneurial, like, oh, and this idea and that idea. But the more now over the past 18 months, I've like got stripped away and got clarity on, no, this is the thing. I see how we and I and the business are starting to get momentum and speed and get close to it. And I do think it's really linked with the whole, manifesting and creating what you want and how you want your life to be. Definitely, I think clarity is like at the top of the tree for me with all of it. Because before it would just be really cloudy, earning this, doing that, going on holiday, that thing, that. And they were almost just things that, I was kind of dreaming up, but it wasn't really the thing. And I think it takes a bit of work and alone time to understand what you really like, what really makes you happy. The other thing I was going to say, and I think a lot of people talk about, you've talked about it, starting the day in the right way. And that I like, and I totally get it. And for me, my morning routine is quite short. I don't feel like I'm optimal first thing in the morning. And what I have realized though is in terms of my meditation, if you like, my manifesting things, my highest energy of really getting my brain focused on what I want to do is when I'm exercising. So, and I think just for me, learning to really understand when you work best, when you optimize best. Do you know what I mean? Like for you, maybe journaling in the morning is best for you. Maybe some people at the end of the day, again, setting the day up is great, but just having that time to yourself to really go all in on what you want to do. For me, I realized that when I'm running, that is my mind kind of unlocks. And I guess it's like that when you have your shower thoughts, or because you're just focusing on the one thing and you're like in the zone. I've realized how important that is to me. And when I don't run or have the time exercising on my own, I don't get that. There is definitely some science behind that, isn't there? Of like you kind of, my brain unlocks when I'm running. I have all of these thoughts and ideas, and we could do that, and this is going to happen. And it's almost like a meditation for me. So I just think it's important also to be in tune and understand what works for you. And what do you know what I mean, in terms of we're all slightly different and just one size doesn't fit all with that, if that makes sense.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, for sure. And is there anything that you feel specifically around manifesting law of attraction that's a really practical thing that you've done that's enabled you to achieve, that you can sort of say, actually, that really did make an impact in me getting the thing, whatever that was for you?
I think for sure being laser focused on the thing. And I think I have a bigger journaling or gratitude practice at the end of the day. And I guess my reflection, like the days just happen so quickly and go by so fast. And I think my reflection piece at the end of the day, I think you like mentioned it before, and like what you're grateful for yesterday. The time I spend before bed, I guess it relates. I guess it's connected with that piece of, I've not achieved my goals. Where am I? I'm not far enough along. That piece I do at the end of every day to kind of note down what I've achieved. And it would be small things. It might be a nice email that I've had that was good, like the wins that I've had, and the wins that I've had in relation to where we're going. So even if it's a really good feedback from a customer. So like last week, I've discovered that one of our clients had recorded a podcast about our service and the impact it made on their life. And like that is totally aligned with where we're going to go. So I guess it's collecting pieces of evidence that we're on the right track. All of these good things are happening. So it's inevitable that where I want to get to is going to happen, if that makes sense. So for me, because again, I definitely have to work hard on my mindset and mentality, because I can easily flip to, it's not enough. Where are we going? Like The Gap and the Gain, brilliant book. Sorry, it is a brilliant book to really focus on everything you've achieved. And to me, that's important in my life to I guess to highlight the evidence that we're on the right path, that all of these good things are happening. It's like that old thing of you can focus on one client complaint, or you can focus on all of these 99 clients that are happy and, just loving your service. But it can be really easy to hyper focus on the one thing that's the negative. So for me, it's really important that every night I just spend 10 minutes really like collecting the evidence of all the good things that are happening, that we're on the right path and I'm going to achieve what I want to achieve.
That is a soundbite right there. Collecting all the evidence of all the good things that we're achieving, that we're on the right path. I mean, that there is what a great way to reflect at the end of the day and say, I'm going to collect all the good things that we're on the right path. Love that.
Thanks, Will. Yeah. Do you know what I mean? That it can be so easy, can't it? There'll be so many people listening to this that have had like that difficult staff member, client, and then it becomes the thing you focus on. It's really weird that our brains go to that bit as opposed to, but hang on a minute, there's a million things here that are all really good. And I just need to very specifically flick my brain to, no, wait, hang on a minute, all of this good stuff happening.
Which is training, it's you're training your mind to focus, aren't you, on those things? Yeah. And that for me is what meditation is. People think meditation is clearing your mind to have no thoughts. No, it's not. It's training your mind to focus, because when we can focus on what's going on and we're super present in that moment, there's other stuff going on. We're not pretending it's not going on, but we're staying focused on that thing. So then when we finish it, we go, right, now I'll deal with this next thing. We're not allowing it to constantly occupy space and time in our mind. Amazing.
Yeah.
Well, I'm certainly glad that we had this conversation on a
I am.
podcast rather than just having it over the phone together and then it just stayed between us two. I think there's some gold here. So if there's people on my podcast, Emma, that want to reach out to you, connect with you, how can they do that? My listeners, I suppose, listen to this.
Yeah, you can find me at Emma My PA on any social platform. That's MIPA, and my podcast is focused on the fun stuff.
All right, very good, wonderful.
And similarly, Will, where can my listeners find you too?
So yeah, Will Polston on kind of all the socials, and that's probably the easiest place. What I'm going to say is that if you are listening to Emma's podcast on Focus on the Fun stuff, or you listen to mine, drop Emma a message and let her know what you've taken from this today, because it was Emma's sort of question that first prompted this. So I'd love for her to hear the feedback of that was interesting, that was done. But most importantly, like anything, what is it you're going to do that you've taken from this conversation today, and let her know. Amazing.
Yeah, I love that. Thanks, Will. Honestly, that was awesome. I cannot believe all of the things that you know about, like the reading that you've done. I'm going to have a big Amazon order come in for sure.
Very good. And for everyone that's been listening, until next time, live a life you love.